47. Dualistic thinking is a sickness. Religion is a distortion. Materialism is cruel. Blind spirituality is unreal. Chanting is no more holy than listening to the murmur of a stream. Counting prayer beads no more sacred than simply breathing. Religious robes no more spiritual than work clothes. If you wish to attain oneness with the Tao, don't get caught up in spiritual superficialities. Instead, live a quiet and simple life, free of ideas and concepts. Find contentment in the practice of undiscriminating virtue, the only true power. Giving to others selflessly and anonymously, radiating light throughout the world and illuminating your own darkness. Your virtue becomes a sanctuary for yourself and all beings. This is what is meant by embodying the Tao. 48. Do you wish to free yourself of mental and emotional knots and become one with the Tao? If so, there are two paths available to you. The first is the path of acceptance. Affirm everyone and everything. Freely extend your goodwill and virtue in every direction, regardless of circumstances. Embrace all things as part of the harmonious oneness, and then you will begin to perceive it. The second path is that of denial. Recognize that everything you see and think is a falsehood, an illusion, a veil over the truth. Peel all the veils away, and you will arrive at the oneness. Though these paths are entirely different, they will deliver you to the same place. Spontaneous awareness of the great oneness. Once you arrive there, remember, it isn't necessary to struggle to maintain unity with it. All you have to do is participate in it. 49. Thinking and talking about the integral way are not the same as practicing it. Whoever became a good rider by talking about horses? If you wish to embody the Tao, stop chattering and start practicing. Relax your body and quiet your senses. Return your mind to its original clarity. Forget about being separated from others and from the divine source. As you return to oneness, do not think of it or be in awe of it. This is just another way of separating from it. Simply merge into truth and allow it to surround you. 50. What good is it to spend your life accumulating material things? It isn't in keeping with the Tao. What benefit in conforming your behavior to someone's conventions? It violates your nature and dissipates your energy. Why separate your spiritual life and your practical life? To an integral being, there is no such distinction. Live simply and virtuously, true to your nature, drawing no line between what is spiritual and what is not. Ignore time. Relinquish ideas and concepts. Embrace the oneness. This is the integral way. 51. Those who want to know the truth of the universe should practice the 4 cardinal virtues. The first is reverence for all life. This manifests as unconditional love and respect for oneself and all other beings. The second is natural sincerity. This manifests as honesty, simplicity, and faithfulness. The third is gentleness. This manifests as kindness, consideration for others, and sensitivity to spiritual truth. The fourth is supportiveness. This manifests as service to others without expectation of reward. The 4 virtues are not an external dogma, but a part of your original nature. When practiced, They give birth to wisdom and evoke the 5 blessings: health, wealth, happiness, longevity, and peace. 52. Do you think you can clear your mind by sitting constantly in silent meditation? This makes your mind narrow, not clear. Integral awareness is fluid and adaptable, present in all places and at all times. That is true meditation. Who can attain clarity and simplicity by avoiding the world? The Tao is clear and simple and doesn't avoid the world. Why not simply honor your parents, love your children, help your brothers and sisters, be faithful to your friends, care for your mate with devotion, complete your work cooperatively and joyfully, assume responsibility for problems, practice virtue without first demanding it of others, understand the highest truths, yet retain an ordinary manner. That would be true clarity, true simplicity, true mastery. 53. True understanding in a person has 2 attributes: awareness and action. Together they form a natural Tai Chi. Who can enjoy enlightenment and remain indifferent to suffering in the world? This is not in keeping with the way. Only those who increase their service along with their understanding can be called men and women of Tao. 54. In ancient times, various holistic sciences were developed by highly evolved beings to enable their own evolution and that of others. These subtle arts were created through the linking of individual minds with the universal minds. They are still taught by traditional teachers to those who display virtue and desire to assist others. The student who seeks out and studies these teachings furthers the evolution of mankind as well as her own spiritual unfolding. The student who ignores them hinders the development of all beings. 55. The holistic practices of the ancient masters integrate science, art, and personal spiritual development. Mind, body, and spirit participate in them equally. They include Yi Yao, the healing science, which incorporates diagnosis, acupuncture, herbal medicine, therapeutic diet, and other methods. Xiangming, the science which predicts a person's destiny by observing the outward physical manifestations on his face, skeleton, palms, and voice. Feng Shui, the science of discerning the subtle energy rays present in a geographic location to determine whether they will properly support the activities of a building or town constructed there. Fuqua, the observation of the subtle alterations of yin and yang for the purpose of making decisions which are harmonious with the apparent and hidden aspects of the situation. A foundation of Fuqua and of all Taoist practice is the study of the I Ching, or Book of Changes. Nei Dan, Wai Dan, and Feng Zhong, the sciences of refining one's personal energy through alchemy, chemistry, and the cultivation of balanced sexual energy. Tai Chi, the science of revitalization through breathing and visualization techniques. Chuan Qi, the transformation of one's spiritual essence through keeping one's thoughts in accord with the divine source. Shu Ser, the attunement of one's daily life to the cycle of universal energy rays. Biku, the practice of fasting on specific days in order to gather life energy emanating from the harmonized positions of certain stars. Sai, the science of embracing integral transcendental oneness in order to accomplish conception of the mystical pearl. Tai Chi Chuan, the performance of physical exercises to induce and direct energy flows within the body to gain mastery of the body, breath, mind, and internal organs, and life and death. Fu Qi, the science of reforming and refining one's energy with pure food and herbs. Chuan Sei, the inner visualization of the unity of one's inner and outer being. Zai Jing, the purification of one's energy through ascetic practices. Fu Zhu, the drawing of mystical pictures and the writing and recital of mystical invocations for the purpose of evoking a response from the subtle realm of the universe. San Xian, the practice of dissolving the ego and connecting with the great oneness through the study of classical scriptures and daily dialogue with an enlightened master. Liao Yan and Qi Men, the mystical sciences of energy linkage for the purpose of influencing external affairs. Of these, the most important for beginners is the study of the I Ching, which enables one to perceive the hidden influences in every situation and thus establish a balanced and spiritually evolved means of responding to them. All are instruments for attaining the Tao. To study them is to serve universal unity, harmony, and wisdom. 56. If you wish to become a person of the Tao, then study that which serves the natural nature of life, and offer it to the world. Allow your devotion to learning the Taoist ways to be complete. Partial practice and partial discipline won't do. You can't know the body by studying the finger, and you can't understand the universe by learning one science. If you study the whole of the Tao wholeheartedly, then everything in your life will reflect it. 57. The universe is a vast net of energy rays. The primary ray is that which emanates from the subtle origin, and it is entirely positive, creative, and constructive. Each being, however, converts the energy of this primary ray into its own ray, and these lower rays can be either positive or negative, constructive or destructive. An individual who is not yet fully evolved can be adversely affected by negative energy rays in the net around him. For example, the combined influence of several negative rays might cause an undeveloped person to believe that his life is being controlled by an invisible, oppressive ruler. Such a misconception can be a significant barrier to enlightenment. To attain full evolution and the status of an integral being, you must be aware of this intricate net and its influences upon you. By integrating the positive harmonious energy rays with the positive elements of your own being, and eliminating the subtle negative influences, you can enhance all aspects of your life. In order to eliminate the negative influences, simply ignore them. To integrate the positive influences, consciously reconnect yourself with the primary energy ray of the subtle origin by adopting the practices of the integral way. Then all the rays in the net around you will merge back into harmonious oneness. 58. Unless the mind, body, and spirit are equally developed and fully integrated, no spiritual peak or state of enlightenment can be sustained. This is why extremist religions and ideologies do not bear fruit. When the mind and spirit are forced into unnatural austerities or adherence to external dogmas, the body grows sick and weak and becomes a traitor to the whole being. When the body is emphasized to the exclusion of the mind and spirit, they become like trapped snakes, frantic, explosive, and poisonous to one's person. All such imbalances inevitably lead to exhaustion and expiration of the life force. True self-cultivation involves the holistic integration of mind, body, and spirit. Balancing yin and yang through the various practices of the integral way, one achieves complete unity within and without. This manifests in the world as perfect equilibrium and perfect grace. 59. Greed for enlightenment and immortality is no different than greed for material wealth. It is self-centered and dualistic, and thus an obstacle to true attainment. Therefore, these states are never achieved by those who covet them. Rather, they are the reward of the virtuous. If you wish to become a divine immortal angel, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. This is the only way to gain the attention of the immortals who teach the methods of energy enhancement and integration that are necessary to reach the divine realm. These angelic teachers cannot be sought out. It is they who seek out the student. When you succeed in connecting your energy with the divine realm through high awareness and the practice of undiscriminating virtue, the transmission of the ultimate subtle truths will follow. This is the path that all angels take to the divine realm. 60. The mystical techniques for achieving immortality are revealed only to those who have dissolved all ties to the gross worldly realm of duality, conflict, and dogma. As long as your shallow worldly ambitions exist, the door will not open. Devote yourself to living a virtuous, integrated, selfless life. Refine your energy from gross and heavy to subtle and light. Use the practices of the integral way to transform your superficial worldly personality into a profound divine presence. By going through each stage of development along the integral way, you learn to value what is important today in the subtle realm, rather than what appears desirable tomorrow in the worldly realm. Then the mystical door will open, and you can join the unruling rulers and uncreating creators of the vast universe. 61. To understand the universe, you must study and understand these things. First, the oneness, the Tao, the great Tai Chi. Second, the great Two, the forces of yin and yang. Third, the three main categories, expressed either as heaven, earth, and man, or as body, mind, and spirit. Fourth, the four forces, strong, weak, light, and heavy. Fifth, the five elements, symbolized by water, fire, wood, metal, and earth. 6. The 6 breaths, wind, cold, heat, moisture, dryness, and inflammation, which transform the climate and the internal organs. 7th, the process of change and recycling. 8th, the 8 great manifestations, heaven, earth, water, fire, thunder, lake, wind, and mountain, the combinations of which reveal the subtle energetic truth of all situations, as taught in the I Ching. Understanding these things, you can employ them internally to leave behind what is old and dead and to embrace what is new and alive. Once discovered, this process of internal alchemy opens the mystical gate to spiritual immortality. 62. Do you wish to attain pure Tao? Then you must understand and integrate within yourself the three main energies of the universe. The first is the earth energy. Centered in the belly, it expresses itself as sexuality. Those who cultivate and master the physical energy attain partial purity. The second is the heaven energy, centered in the mind. It expresses itself as knowledge and wisdom. Those whose minds merge with the universal mind also attain partial purity. The third is the harmonized energy, centered in the heart. It expresses itself as spiritual insight. Those who develop spiritual insight also attain partial purity. Only when you achieve all three, mastery of the physical energy, universal mindedness, and spiritual insight, and express them in a virtuous, integral life, can you attain pure Tao. 63. There are three layers to the universe. In the lower, Tai Ching, and the middle, Shan Qing, the hindrance of the physical bodily existence is required. Those who fail to live consistently in accord with Tao reside here. In the upper, Yu Jing, there is only Tao. The bondage of form is broken, and the only thing existing is the exquisite energy dance of the immortal divine beings. Those who wish to enter Yu Jing should follow the integral way. Simplify the personality, refine the sexual energy upward, integrate yin and yang in body, mind, and spirit. Practice non-impulsiveness. Make your conscience one with pure law, and you will uncover truth after truth and enter the exquisite upper realm. This path is clearly defined and quite simple to follow, yet most lose themselves in ideological fogs of their own making. 64. In earlier times, people lived simply and serenely, sensitive to the fluctuations that constantly occur. They were able to adjust comfortably to the energy of the day. Today, people lead hysterical, impulsive lives, ignoring the subtle alterations of yin and yang which influence all things. They become confused, exhausted, and frustrated. However, even today one can restore wholeness and clarity to one's mind. The way to do this is through study of the I Ching. Like the cycle of day and night, everything is a Tai Chi, incorporating movements between yin and yang. If you do not see the patterns in these movements, you are lost. But if you consult the I Ching with an open mind, you will begin to see the patterns underlying all things. Knowing that daybreak will come, you can rest peacefully at night. When you accurately perceive the fluidity of things, you also begin to perceive the constancy behind them, the creative, transformative, boundless, immutable Tao. To see this is the ultimate education and the ultimate solace. 65. The interplay of yin and yang within the womb of the mysterious mother creates the expansion and contraction of nature. Although the entire universe is created out of this reproductive dance, it is but a tiny portion of her being. Her heart is the universal heart, and her mind the universal mind. The reproductive function is also a part of human beings. because yin and yang are not complete within us as individuals. We pair up to integrate them and bring forth new life. Although most people spend their entire lives following this biological impulse, it is only a tiny portion of our beings as well. If we remain obsessed with seeds and eggs, we are married to the fertile reproductive valley of the mysterious mother, but not to her immeasurable heart and all-knowing minds. If you wish to unite with her heart and minds, you must integrate yin and yang within and refine their fire upward. Then you have the power to merge with the whole being of the mysterious mother. This is what is known as true evolution. 66. The first integration of yin and yang is the union of the seed and egg within the womb. The second integration of yin and yang is the sexual union of the mature male and female. Both of these are concerned with flesh and blood, and all that is conceived in this realm must one day disintegrate and pass away. It is only the third integration which gives birth to something immortal. In this integration, a highly evolved individual joins the subtle inner energies of yin and yang under the light of spiritual understanding. Through the practices of the integral way, he refines his gross, heavy energy into something ethereal and light. This divine light has the capability of penetrating into the mighty ocean of spiritual energy and complete wisdom that is the Tao. The new life created by the final integration is self-aware, yet without ego, capable of inhabiting a body, yet not attached to it, and guided by wisdom rather than emotion. Whole and virtuous, it can never die. 67. To achieve the highest levels of life, one must continually combine new levels of yin and yang. In nature, the male energy can be found in such sources as the sun and the mountains, and the female in such sources as the earth, the moon, and the lakes. Those who study these things, which are only hinted at here, will benefit immeasurably, because higher and higher unions of yin and yang are necessary for the conception of higher life. Some students may be instructed in the art of dual cultivation, in which yin and yang are directly integrated in the tai chi of sexual intercourse. If the student is not genuinely virtuous, and the instruction not that of a true master, dual cultivation can have a destructive effect. If genuine virtue and true mastery come together, however, the practice can bring about a profound balancing of the student's gross and subtle energies. The result of this is improved health, harmonized emotions, the cessation of desires and impulses, and, at the highest level, the transcendent integration of the entire energy body. 68. In angelic dual cultivation, one learns to follow the Tao. To approach the Tao, you will need all your sincerity, for it is elusive, first revealing itself in form and image, then dissolving into subtle, indefinable essence. Though it is uncreated itself, it creates all things. Because it has no substance, it can enter into where there is no space. Exercising by returning to itself, winning victories by remaining gentle and yielding, it is softer than anything, and therefore it overcomes everything hard. What does this tell you about the benefit of non-action and silence? 69. A person's approach to sexuality is a sign of his level of evolution. Unevolved persons practice ordinary sexual intercourse. Placing all emphasis upon the sexual organs, they neglect the body's other organs and systems. Whatever physical energy is accumulated is summarily discharged, and the subtle energies are similarly dissipated and disordered. It is a great backward leap. For those who aspire to the higher realms of living, there is angelic dual cultivation, because every portion of the body, mind, and spirit yearns for the integration of yin and yang. Angelic intercourse is led by the spirit rather than the sexual organs. Where ordinary intercourse is effortful, angelic cultivation is calm, relaxed, quiet, and natural. Where ordinary intercourse unites sex organs with sex organs, angelic cultivation unites spirit with spirit, minds with minds, and every cell of one body with every cell of the other body, culminating not in dissolution, but in integration. It is an opportunity for a man and woman to mutually transform and uplift each other into the realm of bliss and wholeness. The sacred ways of angelic intercourse are taught only by one who has himself achieved total energy integration, and taught only to students who follow the integral way with profound devotion, seeking to purify and pacify the entire world along with their own being. However, if your virtue is especially radiant, it can be possible to open a pathway to the subtle realm and receive these celestial teachings directly from the immortals. 70. The cords of passion and desire weave a binding net around you. Worldly confrontation makes you stiff and inflexible. The trap of duality is tenacious. Bound, rigid, and trapped, you cannot experience liberation. Through dual cultivation, it is possible to unravel the net, soften the rigidity, dismantle the trap, dissolving your yin energy into the source of universal life, attracting the yang energy from that same source. You leave behind individuality and your life becomes pure nature, free of ego, living naturally, working virtuously. You become filled with inexhaustible vitality and are liberated forever from the cycle of death and rebirth. Understand this, if nothing else. Spiritual freedom and oneness with the Tao are not randomly bestowed gifts, but the rewards of conscious self-transformation and self-evolution. 71. The transformation toward eternal life is gradual. The heavy, gross energy of the body, mind, and spirit must first be purified and uplifted. When the energy ascends to the subtle level, then self-mastery can be sought. A wise instructor teaches the powerful principles of self-integration only to those who have already achieved a high level of self-purification and self-mastery. In addition, all proper teaching follows the law of energy response. The most effective method is always that to which a student's natural energy most harmoniously responds. For one, celibacy and self-cultivation will be appropriate. For another, properly guided dual cultivation will derive the greatest benefit. A discerning teacher will determine the proper balance of practices for each individual. In any case, know that all teachers and techniques are only transitional. True realization comes from the direct merger of one's being with the divine energy of the Tao. 72. If you wish to gain merit and become one with the divine, then develop your virtue and extend it to the world. Abandon fancy theologies and imaginary ideas and do some ordinary daily work, such as healing. Let go of all conflict and strife. Practice unswerving kindness and unending patience. Avoid following impulses and pursuing ambitions which destroy the wholeness of your mind and separate you from the integral way. Neither become obsessed with circumstances, nor forego awareness of them. To manage your mind, know that there is nothing, and then relinquish all attachment to the nothingness. 73. The teacher cannot aid the student as long as the student's spirit is contaminated. The cleansing of the spiritual contamination is not the responsibility of the teacher, but of the student. It is accomplished by offering one's talent, resources, and life to the world. Also, to the teacher and to the immortal angels that surround him, a healthy student can offer his pure energy, and a depleted student can give, at the very least, food or wine or service. When one gives whatever one can, without restraint, the barriers of individuality break down. It no longer becomes possible to tell whether it is the student offering himself to the teacher, or the teacher offering herself to the student. One sees only two immaculate beings, reflecting one another like a pair of brilliant mirrors. 74. There are those who derive energy from worshipping and meditating on divine beings and deities. If you feel inclined to worship, then worship these. Worship the fiery sun, repository of yang, and the watery moon, repository of yin. Worship the spiritual centers of men and women, which are angelic in every sense. Worship the 8 great manifestations: heaven, earth, water, fire, thunder, lake, wind, and mountain. Worship the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, which illuminate the underlying harmony of the universe. Finally, worship the great Tai Chi, in which all things are contained, balanced, and reposed. 75. Would you like to liberate yourself from the lower realms of life? Would you like to save the world from the degradation and destruction it seems destined for? Then step away from shallow mass movements and quietly go to work on your own self-awareness. If you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate the suffering in the world, then eliminate all that is dark and negative in yourself. Truly, the greatest gift you have to give is that of your own self-transformation. So find a teacher who is an integral being, a beacon who extends his light and virtue with equal ease to those who appreciate him and those who don't. Shape yourself in his mold, bathe in his nourishing radiance, and reflect it out to the rest of the world. You will come to understand an eternal truth. There is always a peaceful home for a virtuous being. 76. Who can save the world? Perhaps one who devotedly follows these teachings, who calms her mind, who ignores all divergence, who develops a high awareness of the subtle truths, who merges her virtue with the universal virtue and extends it to the world without expectation of reward. She will indeed be the savior of the world. 77. Humanity grows more and more intelligent, yet there is clearly more trouble and less happiness daily. How can this be so? It is because intelligence is not the same thing as wisdom. When a society misuses partial intelligence and ignores holistic wisdom, its people forget the benefits of a plain and natural life. Seduced by their desires, emotions, and egos, they become slaves to bodily demands, to luxuries, to power, and unbalanced religion and psychological excuses. Then the reign of calamity and confusion begins. Nonetheless, superior people can awaken during times of turmoil to lead others out of the mire. But how can the one liberate the many? By first liberating his own being. He does this not by elevating himself, but by lowering himself. He lowers himself to that which is simple, modest, true. Integrating it into himself, he becomes a master of simplicity, modesty, truth. Completely emancipated from his formal, false life, he discovers his original, pure nature, which is the pure nature of the universe. Freely and spontaneously releasing his divine energy, he constantly transcends complicated situations and draws everything around him back into an integral oneness. Because he is a living divinity, when he acts, the universe acts. 78. There are many partial religions, and then there is the integral way. Partial religions are desperate, clever, human inventions. The integral way is a deep expression of the pure whole universal minds. Partial religions rely on the hypnotic manipulation of undeveloped minds. The integral way is founded on the free transmission of the plain, natural, immutable truth. It is a total reality, not an occult practice. The integral way eschews conceptual fanaticism, extravagant living, fancy food, violent music. They spoil the serenity of one's mind and obstruct one's spiritual development. Renouncing what is fashionable and embracing what is plain, honest, and virtuous, the integral way returns you to the subtle essence of life. Adopt its practices, and you will become like they are: honest, simple, true, virtuous, whole. You see, in partial pursuits, one's transformation is always partial as well. But in integral self-cultivation, it is possible to achieve a complete metamorphosis, to transcend your emotional and biological limitations and evolve to a higher state of being. By staying out of the shadows and following the simple path, you become extraordinary, unfathomable, a being of profound cosmic subtlety. You outlive time and space by realizing the subtle truth of the universe. 79. Those in future generations who study and practice the truth of these teachings will be blessed. They will acquire the subtle light of wisdom, the mighty sword of clarity that cuts through all obstruction, and the mystical pearl of understanding that envelops the entire universe. They will attain the insight necessary to perceive the integral truth of the Tao. Following this truth with unabashed sincerity, they will become it, whole, courageous, indestructible, unnameable. The world is full of half-enlightened masters, overly clever, too sensitive to live in the real world. They surround themselves with selfish pleasures and bestow their grandiose teachings upon the unwary. Prematurely publicizing themselves, intent upon reaching some spiritual climax, they constantly sacrifice the truth and deviate from the Tao. What they really offer the world is their own confusion. The true master understands that enlightenment is not the end, but the means. Realizing that virtue is her goal, she accepts the long and often arduous cultivation that is necessary to attain it. She doesn't scheme to become a leader, but quietly shoulders whatever responsibilities fall to her. Unattached to her accomplishments, taking credit for nothing at all, she guides the whole world by guiding the individuals who come to her. She shares her divine energy with her students, encouraging them, creating trials to strengthen them, scolding them to awaken them, directing the streams of their life toward the infinite ocean of the Tao. If you aspire to this sort of mastery, then root yourself in the Tao. Relinquish your negative habits and attitudes. Strengthen your sincerity. Live in the real world and extend your virtue to it without discrimination in the daily rounds. Be the truest father or mother, the truest brother or sister, the truest friend,